welcome back to the Not Carrie Bradshaw YouTube channel. In this video, I'm recapping episode 4 of First Wives Club. I am a little bit behind. I promise I will just double up with this week's episode. I had to take a week off, personal stuff. So let's just jump right into this episode. So Hazel is the exact kind of house guest that we expected for her to be. And I just want to fast forward a little bit. She keeps shading Bree's house. Bree's house is nice as hell. It's the exact kind of brownstone that I would want, especially to raise kids in. And then she mentions that it's in Fort Greene. It may not be a penthouse, but Bree's house is actually like really nice. So meanwhile, speaking of Bree, Gary is ghosting Bree, and she's starting to be like kind of concerned, like, damn, what if something happens to him? So this makes me think, like, are you reconsidering the separation again? Are you sure that this is what you want to do? A part of me is actually really holding out hope that they will come back together, even though I do think that we need to normalize people walking away from relationships or from marriages. I think it also needs to be normalized that there are some things that you can work through. But I think I get tired of the narrative of women sticking around. Like, sometimes I just would love to see and I'm not in the business of telling married people to get divorced, but I do think that divorce should be more normalized and it shouldn't be a source of shame. But it's just every now and again, I just really wish a bitch would just leave. You know what I mean? Just go. Anywho, so we find out that Hazel's prenup only counted if she and Derek had a kid. And I wonder if she knew that. I wonder, what the choice was to not have a kid. Was it for her career? What was the tea there? And I'm still trying to figure out what is up with Hazel's lawyer. Did she not actually have a lawyer? Was Derek telling her that she had a lawyer that she just never met? I hope that I get some clarity on that, because something's just not right there for me. Meanwhile, Ari's daughter gets caught on camera in kind of like a three-way makeout session. So Ari completely freaks out, mostly initially, I think, because of the way the impact that it would have on David's campaign or his political career. And we'll get there to that in a moment. So Hazel gets offered, oh, sorry, if you are new here, I have a notebook. It's how I keep track of my thoughts. I'm sure note cards would be cute, but take me as I am, audience. So Hazel gets offered a gospel contract from a producer who claims to be, such a huge fan of hers. And apparently gospel is where R&B singers go to die. I did not know that. I don't know how true that is, if that's just like written for the show or if there's truth to that. I'm really actually trying to think if that's like factual. Anyway, she turns it down, and I get it. If your heart isn't in gospel music, don't do it. I think that there's certain things that you need to have a calling to do, and if that ain't your calling, don't do it. So I understand her reluctance to do it, but we see a lot of Hazel's ego come out this episode, especially, I think. And she thinks that it's because Derek has blackballed her. So we'll get to that part a little bit later, but that's not what's actually happening. So Bree comes up with the idea because Hazel ain't got no money. Hazel ain't got nowhere to stay. She doesn't have a record deal. She doesn't have any shows. She can't really, get any work. So Bree comes up with the idea that she sells some of her really nice pieces, which I would be devastated if I had. There are some things that I own that if I had to sell them, I really would be devastated about it. Even, I'm gonna tell you the truth, I still have my prom dresses. I can probably fit my index finger in my prom dresses because I was a very tiny person until about sophomore year of college. But I just don't want to let them go for some reason. Now, I do have formal dresses that I've donated to those charities, to give prom dresses to underprivileged girls. But so, 3 of I went to 4 proms. I just like to get dressed up. I'm a girly girl. Very heteronormative, I'm aware, but yeah, and I still have 2 or 3 of those dresses. So I would be sad to give away my sentimental things as well, and especially as a performer, things that you hit certain milestones in, I would be sad to give that stuff away too. But you ain't got no money. You ain't got no money, okay? And Bree wants you the hell out of her house ASAP. So they link up with their reality star homegirl on whose show Bree was on being awkward as hell. Again, y'all know this is Michelle Buteau stan account. So I loved her being awkward and staring directly into the camera during her stint on the reality show. So the revenge auction is the idea that, you know, she sells all this stuff in kind of waiting to excel style. It is trash. Oh, God. Angela Bassett, you still do. I will die on the hill that Angela Bassett should have had an Oscar so long ago. Jesus. Anyway, so she thinks that she's too good for reality TV, and everybody thinks that they're too good for reality TV until they ain't got no money and they don't have no jobs. So do what you gotta do. So Megan, Ari's daughter, is trying to explain that she is actually in kind of a polyamorous triad kind of relationship. She has this very modern take on dating, and Ari is having a really hard time accepting that for a couple of reasons. Number one, her daughter is young. Number two, her daughter is a black girl. And aside from the impact that it could have on David's career, I really don't care about that. This and an episode of Blackish that I literally just watched today. How do you raise black girls to not be ashamed of their bodies, to not be ashamed of their sexuality, to explore what they're interested in terms of dating and relationships, while also knowing that the world does not treat us as fairly as other girls? Even on this episode of Blackish that I was looking at, Dre's, you know, white counterpart or white boss was saying, you know, if my daughter gets pregnant, I'm a bad dad. If your daughter gets pregnant, you're a statistic. And that's true. We aren't really allowed to make the same mistakes that other people get to make. Our mistakes are more permanent. We're judged a little bit more permanently, or a lot of bit more permanently, for things that we do in our youth that white kids don't really get punished for in the same way. So how do you encourage feminism, independence, ownership of your body and your sexuality in black girls, knowing that the world won't treat them that fair? And this is something that I think about too when it comes to dress codes, and when it comes to certain respectability politics, when it comes to being a black woman, but especially a young black woman. It sucks, but how do we prepare young black girls for the world as it is, and not as in the way that we hope for it to be? Just for me, period, I have a huge problem with street harassment. I hate street harassment. I wish that there were more like direct punishment for men who harass women on the street. I find it to be incredibly upsetting. And the thing is, I feel like I could wear a burqa and I would still get street harassed. And it's just this fine line of like, if it's the dead of summer and I want to run outside in biker shorts and a sports bra, if I do that, I should be able to do that. I should be able to just exercise outside when it's hot in a way that's comfortable, but then I also have to deal with the way that men on the street are going to respond to that. So how do we prepare young women, and especially young black girls, for the world as it is, while also making them aware of how the world should be? So I thought that this was really interesting, a really interesting thing to explore on the show, and I'm excited to see a little bit more of how they work through that. I also felt like Megan really needed to be checked for the way she was talking to her mom at a certain point. In our community, we definitely need to work on the deference and respect that we have for elders. I think sometimes we take it too far, but also it's just some ways you're not supposed to talk to your mama, especially when you have a good parent. Keep it cute. So Derek shows up to the reality show filming and knocks Hazel off of her game. You know, Hazel was geared up to do this revenge auction to sell some of her stuff, and you know, the reality show friend set this whole thing up for her. Like, this is her job, and like, you may not take reality shows reality TV seriously, but this is her job. This is how she makes her money. This is how she remains relevant, given that her basketball player husband is injured, and we know that money kind of being like, you know what I mean? I'm not good, you know, with sports ball, but I do know that an injury in basketball or football could mean a huge dent in your money. So, Derek basically, you know, Hazel tries to say that Derek has gotten her blackballed from the industry, and he's like, oh, that's what you think is happening? Your music hasn't been popping for a while because, and I don't know if Khalil made this point to her or if Derek made this point to her, but basically they were saying she hadn't been authentic in her music. Oh, Derek made the point that she hadn't been authentic in her music in a really long time, that she wasn't putting herself in her music. And we see this kind of come to fruition when he knocks her off her game and she tries to pull out from doing the auction, and she finally decides that she needs to go up there and actually like tell the story of like why this piece is significant. And there is so much freedom, which we saw when Hazel got up there on the stage and told the story of what's happening in her divorce and why this piece was so important to her. And there's so much freedom in owning your pain. There's so much freedom in you can empower yourself and others when you are vulnerable within reason. You know, vulnerability without boundaries is not vulnerability at all. Get into Brene Brown, Daring Greatly. But when you try to present a certain persona to the world, it's very hard for people to connect with you. And, you know, people were much more willing to give money and to, you know, buy these items when Hazel was transparent, when she was honest, when she, you know, told the truth and like connected to the audience, and there was, you know, a rapport there. So I think it's important, especially as creatives, where and when you feel safe and comfortable, you have to put some semblance of yourself into your work, because the fake shit is only gonna take you so far. And I think Hazel has reached the end of where the fake shit could take her. So, from this empowering moment, she decides that she's no longer going to try to get a record deal. She's going to go independent, which, you know, IRL, we see a lot of artists doing. And no, you don't get the advantage of a huge budget, but whatever you do make as an independent artist is yours. Big risk, big reward. So I'm with it, and I hope it works out for her. I mean, obviously, like, this show is First Wives Club, so I'm expecting it's gonna work out for her. She will emerge victorious. So Bree does Find Your iPhone, basically tracks down Gary. Girl, Gary is on a date, okay? Gary's out here living his best life, and I don't know how I feel about it. I don't. I just feel like it's so much easier for the parent who doesn't have kids to move on and to get out there and date. Kind of don't seem fair, but whatever. So Ari circles back to talk to Megan, and actually ends up learning quite a bit from her daughter. Like, she has two boyfriends who are in absolute service to her, and you know, it becomes really apparent to Ari that she could learn a thing or two about independence and what it means to, you know, be a capable woman, being in absolute service to your husband. So I'm hoping that this will be a turning point for Ari. Y'all know I'm team Ari and not team David. I hope he loses the election and Ari gets to run for office instead, and he should be like a stay-at-home dad, because he doesn't even seem smart enough to do that. Anyway, that's my recap. I continue to love this show. I continue to be excited about what each episode is going to present. The cameos, the humor, I'm here for it. Anywho, I will be back for episodes 5 and 6. I'll probably just do a double recap. Let me know if that's okay with you guys. Drop down in the comments. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Be sure to like and you know, tell a friend, share this thing. If you like what you saw today, become a patron of mine on Patreon so I can continue to provide, you know, free things for you folks. And I will see you soon. Bye.